Welcome everyone to CRTC Archives and Deep Dives. We begin this presentation learning a bit about the victims and the crime. We will talk about the media coverage, keeping in mind that at the time of the Lauria Valenti shooting, there was no Son of Sam, so media coverage was very light. Then we'll dive into the interview with Bronx DA and David Berkowitz, covering excerpts from those transcripts. And finally, we will hear what was told to Dr. Abramson, to journalist Jack Jones, what Clausner reported in his book, and an excerpt from The Ultimate Evil. Thank you for tuning in. In July 1976, 18-year-old Donna Lauria and 19-year-old Jody Valenti were ambitious young women working within the healthcare system of the Bronx. Lauria worked as a medical receptionist, studying to become an emergency medical technician, while Valenti was a student nurse. They were described by family as dedicated, hardworking, and vibrant. The two spent the evening of July 28th at the Peach Trees, a popular discotheque in New Rochelle. Upon returning to the Bronx around 1 a.m., they were both briefly greeted outside the Bureau Arms apartment building by Donna's parents, Michael and Rose Lauria, who were returning home from a wake and after event. After a brief conversation, Michael Lauria went upstairs to their fourth-floor apartment to retrieve the family's pet poodle, Bo, for a late-night walk, leaving the two girls chatting in Valenti's double-parked Oldsmobile. The tragic ambush that initiated a 13-month reign of terror over New York City occurred just moments later at approximately 1:10 a.m. on July 29, 1976. As Lauria opened the passenger door to finally head inside, she noticed a man rapidly approaching the vehicle while drawing a weapon from a paper bag. The unidentified shooter crouched and fired 5 close-range shots from a .44 caliber Charter Arms Bulldog revolver through the window. Lauria was struck in the neck and killed instantly, while Valenti survived a bullet wound to her thigh. The initial investigation was handled locally by detectives from Bronx Homicide Division. At the time, baffled authorities lacked a clear motive for the unprovoked ambush, unaware that this localized tragedy was the opening salvo of the notorious Son of Sam serial killings. Following the shooting, police reports noted that investigators recovered 1 intact .44 caliber bullet alongside 2 deformed or fragmented from the scene and the victim's vehicle. While ballistics experts with the NYPD Firearms Laboratory examined the evidence and noted the weapon's distinct, oversized rifling marks, the lack of matching firearms on file or immediate local suspects caused the trail to quickly go cold. For months, investigating detectives treated the case as an isolated, random act of violence, exhausting standard angles like jilted lovers, neighborhood disputes, a mob hit, or mistaken identity, completely unaware that these specific .44 caliber ballistics would soon serve as the definitive forensic link connecting Donna Lauria's murder to a string of seemingly unrelated shootings across the outer boroughs. Donna Lauria, Jody Valenti. Say their names. Remember the victims. Chatting in a car, girl met by death, as reported by the Daily News on Friday, July 30th, 1976. A man crept up to a double-parked car in front of an apartment house in the Bronx early yesterday and fired shots, killing an attractive teenager and wounding her girlfriend. The assailant fled into the darkness without saying a word, leaving the wounded girl screaming hysterically. Police said that Donna Lauria, 18, of 2860 Buer Avenue, Westchester Heights, was killed when the first bullet fired at close range crashed through the window on the passenger side and struck her in the temple. A second bullet entered the thigh of the driver, Jody Valenti, 19. One slug ricocheted off the door, and the fourth shot was found lodged in the front seat. Detectives say they believe that the murder weapon was a .45 caliber automatic, but were not able to confirm this pending ballistics tests. Miss Lauria's uncle, a police officer who asked that he not be identified, said she had gone with her friend to a Manhattan discotheque in Miss Valenti's mother's car, a 1974 Cutlass Oldsmobile, Wednesday night. He said the girls returned to Miss Lauria's apartment house at about 12:30 a.m. and were sitting in the car just talking. A short while later, Miss Lauria's parents drove up and saw the girls and chatted with them a few minutes. Her father said he was going to get the family's dog and they would walk him together after Miss Valenti left. While the father was upstairs in the Lauria's fourth-floor apartment, the gunman sneaked up on the girls and shot them. Miss Valenti got out of the car, went around to the other side, opened the door, and Miss Lauria's body slumped onto the pavement. At this moment, the victim's father came out of the apartment house with the dog and burst into tears when he saw his daughter's body on the ground. Ms. Valenti, a nurse who lives a few blocks away, told detectives she did not recognize the killer. She said he was a white male in his late 30s and wore a blue-striped shirt. Miss Lauria has been employed for 2 years at the Empire State Ambulance Service, which has its headquarters at New York Hospital, as an emergency medical technician. Remember, at this time, there was no .44 caliber killer or Son of Sam, so there was no press frenzy on this crime. August 11th, 1977. Interrogation with the Bronx District Attorneys. Excerpts. I was heading west on Burr Avenue, and I had just rounded. I knew I had to get them. Why? Those were my orders. I never saw them until moments before the shooting. I never saw them. Were their car lights on? I don't remember. Do you know what they were doing? Talking. Was there anyone near their car, such as an old man or woman? I saw nobody. What did you do? I parked my car around the corner in a spot. I got out of the car with the gun in a bag. I walked up to the car through the street up on Burr Avenue, right to the car, and I stood by the curb, and they were seated there. As far as I know, Miss Lauria didn't see me. That was a paper bag? Yes, and she sat there talking, and I pulled out the gun, and I put the bag in my left hand and fired the gun with my right hand through the window. Was the window up? Yes. Did the glass shatter? Yes, it did. How many times did you fire? 5 times. What kind of gun? .44 Bulldog. And as you have already discussed it, I want to get it for the stenographer, Mr. Kitchen. Can you describe the gun itself? It's a short barrel, large caliber weapon. How many bullets in the gun? 5. How many did you fire? 5. Do you know who you struck first? At first, I didn't know I struck anybody because I remember Donna had just cupped her hands over her head and was sitting in the car. I didn't hear any sound. I just emptied my gun in the car and saw the glass shatter, and the other girl, I believe, she screamed and blew the horn, and I stood there and emptied the gun, and I didn't know that I struck anybody. I thought she was holding her head because of the flying glass, and when the horn started to blow, I found myself pulling the trigger, and I had already ran out of bullets. What were you wearing at the time? I don't remember. Dungarees, probably. Did you have the same hair as you do have now? Yes. You didn't have a wig? No. What did you intend to do when you pulled out the gun and fired it at the window where Donna Lauria was sitting? Just shoot them and shatter the window. Did you intend to kill them? Yes. June 16, 1979. A letter from David Berkowitz to Dr. Abramson. Now I will tell you about the first one, Donna Lauria. I saw her and another girl sitting in a blue Oldsmobile Cutlass as I drove past. I parked about 2 very short blocks away on a side street. Coincidentally, there was a space available. I left my car walking in the direction of their parked car. I saw both girls sitting there, apparently talking. I circled the car at a distance, like an animal stalking its prey. Cautiously, I was watching for movement from other people in the street. However, there was none. Then from behind and on the sidewalk, I approached the car, took my revolver out of a paper bag, and stopped parallel to their vehicle. I faced Donna, aimed my gun in the general direction, and fired all 5 rounds very rapidly. I saw the glass breaking into small slivers. The horn started sounding loudly, and then I ran full speed in the direction of my car. I stopped running within 50 feet of the car, then started walking briskly to it. I got in, then drove off. I aroused no attention. I didn't know I had killed her until I read the post the following afternoon. The shooting took place at about 1 a.m. I went straight home and went to bed. I got up early the next day to go to work at the cab company in the same neighborhood, Pelham Bay Park. I was at work promptly at 6:45 a.m. That day I made out better than usual in both tips and fares. I made it my point to go to work so I wouldn't arouse any suspicion. But who would have suspected me anyhow? I didn't know the victims. Killer tape transcript. Berkowitz and Jack Jones. Berkowitz. Came home from work tired without much money, and it built up because the first crime wasn't the first time I was out in the street, you see. I was out, I guess, when I knew what my intentions were. I don't know why, I look back and see how silly it was of me. No, I don't want to use that word. I look back and see how nonsensical the whole thing was, how senseless, pointless. But I was so angry. I just didn't care anymore. I just walked up to this one car in the first shooting, and I just started shooting the gun. Jones. Nothing about the people in the car that made you say this is the car that I would go up to? Berkowitz. Well, they were 2 women sitting in the car. Jones. What time of day was it? Berkowitz. A little after 1 o'clock in the morning. Jones. And how long had you been out with the gun? Berkowitz. Since about 10 in the evening. Jones. Were you out in the taxi or your private car? Berkowitz. My private car. Jones. And did you know when you started off that you were out looking for somebody to shoot? Berkowitz. Yes, I was so cold-blooded about that. I look back at it now, and it's I can't believe it, that I had reached a stage in life where I just didn't care, for I had so much hatred and anger in me. 1981, The Son of Sam by Lawrence Clausner. Excerpt. Later, David called Donna Lauria his little princess. Right after he killed her, Sam had promised her to him. He was supposed to marry her, he says. Sam told him that, but Sam lied. He always lied. The 6,000-year-old man never lived up to that promise. I don't know, he says. Maybe he would have given her to me eventually. David never complained, figuring that in the end, Sam would give her to him. David would always have a mystical attachment to her. If he had known what cemetery she was buried in, he would have visited her grave. Somehow, he believed Donna Lauria would rise from the dead, like Lazarus, to stand beside him for eternity. Maury Terry's The Ultimate Evil, 1987 edition. According to what the public knew at the time, it had begun quietly on Thursday morning, July 29, 1976, in the Northeast Bronx, as Michael and Rose Lauria were returning to their roomy 4th-floor apartment at 2860 Buer Avenue in the predominantly Italian-American Pelham Bay section. It was 1 a.m. Lauria, a bus company employee in Manhattan, and Rose, an administrative worker at New York Hospital, also in Manhattan, were coming home after attending a wake and stopping briefly at a local restaurant, the Chateau Pelham. As they neared their building, they recognized the 1975 blue and white Oldsmobile double parked in front. It belonged to Jody Valenti, 19, a student nurse and close friend of the Lauria's daughter, Donna, 18. Jody was behind the wheel talking with Donna, who sat beside her in the passenger seat. Donna had medium-length dark hair and light brown eyes. She was a pretty young woman, popular and dated often. She was currently on the outs with a boyfriend. The two girls were back from an evening at a discotheque in nearby New Rochelle, located on the Long Island Sound in southeastern Westchester County. The disco's name was Peachtree, and in time it and New Rochelle would figure prominently in the Son of Sam story. Donna and Jody, who herself was a pretty girl with shoulder-length, flowy brown hair, were regulars at Peachtree's Wednesday night backgammon tournaments. The Laurias paused to speak with the girls, and Mike reminded Donna to come upstairs soon because she was due at work in the morning. As he looked up from his conversation with his daughter, Mike Lauria noticed a yellow compact-sized auto double parked across the street and about 20 yards behind Jody's car. It was occupied by a lone male driver. Unknown to Mike, neighbors had spotted a similar, unfamiliar vehicle cruising the area several hours before, at about the time Donna was out. "Make sure you don't stay down here too long," Mike advised. He was understanding of the comings and goings of his sons, Louis and Michael, but was more protective of Donna, his only girl. Donna offered a compromise, saying she'd wait with Jody while her father went upstairs and brought down her poodle Beau. Then they'd walk the dog together. Mike Lauria agreed, and he and Rose entered the tan brick apartment building and rode the elevator to the 4th floor. On the street, Donna and Jody continued their conversation. Donna, who'd been sickly as a child, had blossomed into a healthy young woman. Perhaps remembering her past, she chose a career in the medical field and was now employed as a technician by the Empire State Ambulance Service in Manhattan. Jody Valenti, the student nurse, was a neighbor as well as a friend to Donna and her family. She lived with her parents just 3 blocks away at 1918 Hutchinson River Parkway. At 1:10 a.m., Donna bid goodnight to Jody and turned to open the door of the double park Olds. As her hand pulled the latch open, she saw a young man standing on the curb about 8 feet away, toward the rear of the car. Donna was startled. "Now what is this?" she started to say. They were her last words. The man on the curb pulled a gun from the brown paper bag he was carrying, put both hands on the weapon, crouched slightly, and fired 3 shots into the car. Donna raised her right arm as the bullet shattered the closed passenger's window. One of the slugs entered her right elbow, traveled downward through her forearm, exited beneath her wrist, entered her back, and killed her instantly. Donna tumbled from the car and hit the pavement with a sickening thud. Another bullet, apparently aimed at Donna as well, tore into Jody Valenti's left thigh. The third missed. His work done, the killer turned and walked around the corner of Bure and Mayflower Avenues into infamy. Rose Lauria looked directly down from her kitchen window on the 4th floor in response to the noise below. She heard Jody Valenti's horn blaring, and she watched curiously as Jody crawled from the car and hobbled back and forth in the middle of the street, shouting at the top of her voice. Then it dawned on Rose. Jody was crying for help. Lauria was in the stairwell with the poodle when he heard the series of explosions. He raced outside to Jody's car, and she screamed to him, "Donna! Donna!" Lauria looked down to the pavement and saw his stricken daughter. He rode with her in the ambulance, holding her hand and pleading with her not to die, but it was too late. As for the wounded Jody, her mental anguish was more severe than her thigh injury, which was promptly treated. When police visited the hospital, she was nearly hysterical. But after a time, she provided a detailed description of the gunman. Male white, 30s, 5'9", 160 pounds, curly dark hair, mod style, clean shaven, light complexion, wearing a blue polo shirt with white stripes and dark pants. Although no one knew it, the Son of Sam case had begun. So there's a compilation of basic case material for you. We've cross-referenced different sources. We've pulled together excerpts so that it wouldn't go on and on. We just wanted one nice little package for you that was bite-sized and digestible. Notice that there are discrepancies between sources. This video did not have much commentary because I am saving that for part 2, where we go into the timeline, we look at our research notebook, and we share thoughts and hopefully have good communication with the viewers. Thank you so much again for watching. And as always, remember the victims.